Today I'm going to show you guys how to have standards and boundaries in a way that feels good, you feel certain about them inside and out, and you're not forceful and you're not triggered about them. So if we are triggered and reactive with our standards and boundaries, it's a sign that we ourselves are not fully certain about our standards and boundaries. We're still confused about certain things about them, or we're insecure about our own standards and boundaries. A very helpful activity for this, and this is how I set all of my own standards and boundaries, is I always go back to my life vision. My life vision is mostly my being. So who I want to be, who I am being right now. And this vision is right now. It's not the future, it's right now. And every day I come back to this vision and it's me right now. And when I can accept that it's me right now, my future self is my right now self, and it's more so about my being. The other things, the success, the relationships, the material things, they come when I am in that being myself, the highest version of me, this being. And also remembering that my highest self, if I'm able to always be my highest being, this is only going to serve everyone around me too, everyone in my life, whether close or far. Because it's only when I'm in my highest self is when I can serve others too. It's only when I am in my highest self where I can bring abundance to others too. I need to be abundant first. I need to put myself first. Once I know that I know who I am, my highest self, and I know what she does in her everyday, and she's evolving. So I'm also okay with having certain standards and boundaries right now that might not be applicable in next year or even next week or a few weeks ago. I'm ever changing, ever evolving, and I need to accept myself first. And I need to just be clear on who I am right now, who the highest me right now and later is, and I can refine this as I go. But I come back to reviewing that every day. When I do that, then things I choose, who I want to interact with, who I don't want to, where I want to go and where I don't want to go, and certain routines I have for myself, especially my routines, I'm not ashamed, I'm not embarrassed, I'm not hesitant, and I'm not forceful about these things because these are it is what it is. And the other thing that's very important with standards and boundaries is it's not about them, it's about us. So when it's about us and it's about just our clarity and it's tied to our highest potential, highest vision, then we will also understand that there's no need to over-explain. We don't need them to know exactly what the standards and boundaries are. It's just a natural thing for us. It is what it is. So a lot of times it's like, if it's to do with time, instead of needing people to know why you can't meet earlier or why you can't stay later, you just tell them, hey, yeah, I can meet you after this time. I can meet you at this time, or I need to go by this time. You don't even explain why. You don't explain why. You don't need to explain why. And when you're stating these things like, hey, yeah, I can meet you after 3, or I can't do 11, I'll meet you at 2, or you don't even, if you're going somewhere and you know that you're going to leave early, you don't even need to tell them ahead of time. You just leave at that time. You're not being sneaky about it. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's way more in your energy. When you can hold that energy of it is what it is, and that it is what it is energy comes from us aligning our standards and boundaries to our highest vision, our highest me, abundance, expansion. So everything else will just be more nonchalant. Just think of all the things in your life that you don't have an issue with. Then you don't even think about these things, but it is what it is. And when people communicate, you're not even thinking about this thing. It's just, you just figure out the logistics of this current situation with the others, and that's it. If someone is pushing our boundaries a bit, but because normally we're always just, it is what it is. We do adhere to our boundaries, but because now we know that these things are to serve our highest self. When we know that these things are to serve our highest self, we also see others and we're more compassionate with others. So if someone is telling us to help them to stay late, normally we keep to our boundaries. But if this person is doing it a lot this week, instead of us reacting from a place of judgment and anger that they're not respecting us, we automatically go into this thought of, okay, we're good at, making sure that we're always being in our highest potential. I can see that they're struggling actually. And I want to help them as best as I can without sacrificing myself to feel better with themselves too. So when I see that, then I'm not going to be just focused on my own boundaries and standards. I'm going to be more open and curious about what's actually going on here. And I'm more courageous to be able to give a little more, be like, okay, sure, I'm going to stay late today. And this choice, I know that I'm not making it to sacrifice myself. I truly want to help. And in our interactions, I'm also going to be more open to understanding what they're actually going through. We're more healed, we're less triggered, we love ourselves unconditionally, we're strong and powerful. So we can be more flexible, engaging with people without losing our sense of self. So I'm going to go on live on Instagram now to take a few questions. So make sure to jump on my lives on Instagram and TikTok if you want to participate in the Q&As of these episodes. How do you establish boundaries with someone who is too clingy or needy? You make sure that you are clear about your standards and boundaries. And again, don't decide it from reactiveness. Don't be like, you're focusing on their clingy and neediness so that every time they ask you something, you're just like, no, I can't. I just told you. Why do you always ask me? That means you're focused on them. Be clear about what you need for yourself and set that for yourself so that when they approach you, you just tell them, I can't meet today, or I can see you next Sunday. And when you communicate with them, just practice the art of being both decisive and clear when you speak, as well as you're not triggering them. You're not being like, no. You're also not being like, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't. You're just like, I'll meet you here, I'll meet you there, I'll meet you at this time, I'll meet you at that time, and that's it. You just communicate it directly. So what's the difference between setting boundaries and refraining others to speak disrespectfully? Number one, just remember, anytime you start to put the focus on them, you start to want to change them. It's just, you're kind of doing the same thing though, because you don't like how they're speaking to you, but you're trying to force them to speak to you how you want them to speak to you. So try to never put too much focus on trying to change and force the other, especially if they're doing that to you. You don't want them to do that to you either. So make it more, if it's someone that's like you don't need to have in your life, or it's just a friend that kind of gets on your nerves sometimes, the best thing to do is you just focus on how you want others to talk to you by you being it. So you don't put the focus on them when they're saying something to you. You be open, you be curious, and you show them through your energy. When they're talking to you and they might be cutting you off sometimes, or they might just disagree with your thoughts, you breathe and you be patient. You try to listen to what they have to say while keeping whatever you want to say and being like, okay, I see what you mean, or I don't really see it. Can you explain this more? At the same time, this is what I think. The more you can keep to the type of energy that you want to experience and you be that is your best influence. And then boundaries is just, and then this is where if it's someone that's not that close to you, you don't need to be around them a lot of times. When we have different personalities and there are certain characteristics that other people have that we just feel it's too intense, that we don't like, then this is where you just pull yourself out more. Sometimes though, if it's someone that's close to you, you can, and there's someone that's like a partner or a family or someone that you just interact with a lot more, you can bring things up with them, but come from it from I. So instead of trying to tell them, hey, you should stop doing this, like this is rude and this is not respectful, tell them how you feel. Because again, in the end though, it is contextual, and maybe the way that they speak, other people like it, who knows, right? And I don't know, it's depending on your context. So regardless, you want to come from me. So if you do sit them down, you can tell them, hey, I really enjoy talking to you, or, say something of gratitude first, and then be like, sometimes I feel a little bit unheard when we interact with each other because you talk a lot, which I love. I love listening to you talk. But sometimes I try to get my words in and I have a hard time doing so. I just like to slow things down sometimes so that I can hear you better and I want you to hear me better. Is that something you notice? Is that I want to share that with you because I want to have more flow in our conversations. Something like that. So tell them from a genuine place, be direct about exactly what you're sensing, but speak from I, come from I. I don't like people borrowing my stuff. How can I say no without sounding rude? When people ask, you just be like, oh, not today. No. Can I borrow this for today? Not today. I need to use it. Just practice saying no without explaining in this way, or not today. Or you can use it tomorrow. You figure that out, but practice just saying no without feeling bad about it. Don't be forceful. Just practice your delivery. Just say no. However, you can see, even as I'm telling you this, I don't think you can escape this next step though. You want to get to the roots of things, because when I was thinking about this, when I first read your question, my question was also, why are you so sensitive with other people borrowing your things though? You get clear about, okay, maybe in the past people have lost my things before, or they have not returned it on time. But I want to also borrow other people's things sometimes. And it's not really about the things, it's just my past traumatic experiences with lending my things. So when you get to the roots of it, and again, you reveal your highest you. Do you want to be someone that's very conservative about the things that they have? And maybe that is true. So you have to ask yourself these questions. You have to get to the roots of why. And getting to the roots will help you feel comfortable about it. Then you're not going to be as initially reactive. When people ask you to borrow something, your answer will probably be more like, yeah, sure, but I need it back by tomorrow. I need to use it tomorrow. Or, yeah, but don't use so much. Only use this much. You'll be more clear on telling them exactly what it is, and you feel good about it. How to understand boundaries while getting along with new people. You understand yourself clearly. And new people is the best place to practice boundaries because these are new people. It's harder to practice new boundaries on old people. So it's just be clear on who you are, what you stand for, what your limit standards are. And again, it's not about, they don't need to clearly know it, see it bluntly. It's just, you just be it and you are in it. So when people talk to you, you just, if they ask you to go to certain things and you don't want to, you just be like, oh, I'm not interested in that. But maybe we can go to this. You can do whatever the hell you want, but you're just certain yourself and you just be in your boundaries. It's your standards and boundaries are way more you be in that energy. You respect your own standards and boundaries and you just do it. You don't need to tell people these things. You just be it. And when you're so certain in it though, then especially with new people, you're also less rigid with it though, because once your boundaries and standards are just a natural part of you, you're not so closed off and restrictive. It's just a natural part of you. But when it's a natural part of you, then when you're meeting new people, you're more open and flexible, meaning, this is someone new and they have this interesting energy and they're asking me to hang out with them next week for a whole day. And normally I have my morning routine, but I'm engaging with them and listening to this opportunity. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You know what? Yeah, sure, I'll go. How to set boundaries with people who lack the emotional intelligence to understand why. Again, it's just, you don't need them to understand why. You don't need to explain your boundaries to them. It's about you, not them. Don't focus on them. You just be clear on what your standards are, what your boundaries are, who you are. And when you engage with these people, you focus on the logistics. They ask you certain things, you just tell them yes or no. Yes, you can. No, you can't. And that's it. And if they do ask you why, you focus on the logistics too. You don't have to explain, but you can be like, 10 to 12 is my morning practice, my morning routine time. I just do it every day. But I can meet you at 1. I didn't respect someone's boundaries once, and now I'm trying to change. But if I try to, that person would say, how can you set boundaries after not respecting mine? Please help me. First of all, your boundaries and their boundaries are not the same boundaries. You don't be reactive with them, but understand the truth of it. Don't feel bad. They can have their boundaries and you can have your boundaries, and your boundaries and your boundaries are separate. So especially if you are very conscious with respecting them now, you deserve to be respected too. So know what their boundaries and limits are. And if that comes up next, you can be like, you can ask them, you can be like, have I not been respecting your boundaries? You can tell me what it is right now. I'll make sure to respect it. But I have my own boundaries too, and these are just my limits. And my boundaries are not to push you away. It's just what I'm doing to make sure I am feeling good every day so that I can feel good with you too. That's it for today. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're tuning in from my YouTube or my podcast. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this episode. If you guys have any questions, any thoughts, please engage with my episodes, my content on YouTube and my podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, rate my podcast on Spotify too. Give me a 5-star. I'm putting more focus and effort into these episodes, these longer form episodes for you guys now. So your engagement is really helpful for me too. Your engagement really supports me. It shows me that you want to see more of this content too. You guys can get my Energy Mastery Blueprint in the description below. That's your initial source of understanding all of these terms and concepts that I share with you guys in all my content. And you guys can stay tuned for my upcoming program on energy mastery, self and social masteries through understanding our energy. And for now, you can also book one-on-one coaching with me if you want personal support. That's also in the description below. Hope you guys are having a great day. Remember, when in doubt, just take a breath and see things from a new view. I'll see you guys next time.